One casual day, a man inside his apartment stares at a picture frame. It was a picture of a man who appears to be someone close to the protagonist. It turns out, he was mourning for the loss of his brother. It was a tragedy for the protagonist since the first thing he heard about his brother in 5 years is an obituary. But that's not the first time the protagonist grieves for his loved ones. It was 3 years ago when his mother passed away. The mother had an illness, and she was aware of her condition, but she didn't mind since all her lifetime she only spent her remaining days finding her son, or should we say the protagonist's brother. The protagonist mourns not only for his brother but also for his mother while his relatives try their best to comfort him. The protagonist then stares at his brother's missing poster and grasps these events. Deep inside he kind of blamed his brother since their mother didn't think of herself not even once, just to find the missing brother. The protagonist left wearing an army uniform as he glares at the place where he lost everything he loves. He gave up looking for his little brother and left Korea since he volunteered to be dispatched to Africa. While he was above the sky, riding a plane, he thought that since he lost his family, he guessed that there's no reason for him to come back. He lost hope as he went to do his service. Back in the protagonist's place, he opened his brother's belongings to reminisce about the memories he has with his little brother. As he opened the box, he saw a picture of him in a fancy pocket watch. He looks pale, like he was drained for losing his loved ones. He then analyzed the picture and tried to guess what was the purpose of his brother wearing an armored suit. But then he thought maybe his brother is shooting a film, but he isn't sure. He starts to become emotional as he saw the pocket watch. The pocket watch was the present he gave to his little brother to wish him good luck for his college entrance exam. He then saw the initials of his brother at the back of the watch, and that's when he starts to reminisce his good memories with his brother. His little brother is a joyful and kind type of person. The little brother with a jolly bright smile thanked the protagonist. The little brother then compliments the gift as a respectful gesture. And to show his appreciation to his big brother, the protagonist, he told his big brother that the pocket watch is more stylish than a digital watch. The protagonist, on the other hand, was glad that his baby brother appreciates the good luck gift he gave and teased his baby brother that he's very thoughtful. Then his baby brother saw the initials at the back of the pocket watch and was bewildered since it kind of didn't match his last name, but he was fine with JW since it stands for his name. The big brother was confused with the word Ka because their last name is Cha. He then realized that the person who puts the initial made a typo. The protagonist, who felt a little awkward, insists on returning the pocket watch and complains about the tiny mistake. But the joyful baby brother didn't mind, and he even convinced the protagonist that he swore to carry it around with him. He even made a joke that if he could go back in time, he would change their surname into Ka. The protagonist smiled as he remembered those joyful days with his brother, and when everything was all right, the pocket suddenly moved its minute hand and left the protagonist confused since he thought the pocket watch was broken a long time ago. All of a sudden, he heard his little brother's voice, and the little brother informed his big brother that the journal the protagonist is holding will be his as soon as he found the pocket watch. The protagonist immediately stands up out of goosebumps as soon as he heard his little brother's voice trying to speak. The little brother then mentioned that if by the time the protagonist holds the pocket watch, then he is no longer part of this world. The protagonist checks the clock and himself if he's hallucinating or are there anything high-tech installed in the pocket watch. The protagonist shivers while his dead brother keeps talking. The little brother's purpose is to leave a message for the protagonist. The little brother deeply apologized to the protagonist since he gave him a hard time during his disappearance. He then reasoned out that he only wanted to get some medication that could effectively treat their mother. The little brother thought he'd be back soon, but he did not expect it to drift away like that. It all started before the little brother disappeared on October 9, 2013. He received a strange text message that said if he reached the end of the obelisk, his wish would become reality. Then it asked the little brother if he was interested in joining. The little brother thinks that the subject matter was too strange for it to be labeled spam. Then it stated nothing else except the question for him if he's interested to join. For the little brother, he would normally ignore texts that could possibly be a scam, but once he saw his poor mother laying on the hospital bed slowly getting the life out of her, the little brother became desperate. Without any hesitations, the little brother clicked the yes button to participate and just thought of the bright side and didn't think of any consequences for the sake of their mother. From that day on, the little brother began to have weird dreams. The weird dream started on October 12, 2013, but the little brother is certain that it felt like it was his new reality, that everything was real. His vision was like from a medieval-based fantasy world. He saw an elf and dwarf species. He saw that he's in a world where orc, troll, and dragon spirits roamed. In the little brother's dream, there was a tower at the center named the Sun God's Tower. The rumor he heard was that if a person surpasses the obelisk, that person will become God. But the little brother's intention is to not obtain any power of the humankind. His interest was in the all-cure medicine that was located inside the tower in the form of an elixir. The little brother became determined as he felt hope to save his mother. On October 28, 2013, he formed a team with like-minded people to make it easier to start climbing the tower. However, he compared the fantasy reality world he's in and observed that the place is something not to be messed with. Proceed to November 9, 2013. The little brother decided to run away from home to continue his journey to save his mother. The little brother would most likely struggle for half a year, and to make the journey possible, he cuts off his connection to the real world. The little brother's team made a name called Arsha on December 1, 2013, and their team was the best in all aspects. The rate of their conquest has become slower than expected on September 7, 2014, that it would probably take another year. On November 11, 2014, there was a conflict that has arisen with high-ranking clan. Their raid has encountered something, but the next word was cut halfway through. It seems the word he was about to write is obstacle. On the February 31 journal entry, the little brother's voice has become chappy, but he addressed that on that exact date they were unable to reach an agreement and they would go to a war. The little brother's voice started to have a lot of cuts and couldn't complete a sentence, while the protagonist was still in shock, trying to process all the events his little brother had been through. With his mixed emotions hearing his little brother's voice and the grief he had for him while realizing that his disappearance had something to do to help their sick mother, he was in disbelief. Then on September 19 to 16 there was another outbreak of war. And the war still goes on till January 2 to 7. Everybody was exhausted from the war. In June 6 to 17 there was a traitor emerged, a discord within the clan, and everyone was starting to get suspicious to one another. The joyful and ray sunshine little brother was gone. He looked drained, depressed, and a dead soul. All that because on July 1, 2017 his body was getting heavier and he became an addict. After the little brother's state has become worse, he slowly loses all the ones he built in the fantasy reality world. Like on October 30, half of the member of his clan had left. They were getting defeated in the war, and his body condition has been slowly deteriorating. Then a woman whom the little brother truly loves stabbed him in the heart and left him. The little brother's body began to rot. But then, he can't think of anyone but his big brother. The poor little brother missed him so much. On February 1, 2018, he is the only one who remained in Astri that he built in the beginning. He wondered where everything went wrong. On the little brother's last journal entry of February 28, 2018, after all the years and exhausting journey, he finally possessed the elixir. But it was a tragedy, since he won't be able to send it to his sick bedridden mother because he was surrounded by enemies he made along the way his journey. By that moment, he then realized that there is only one person in the world who is on his side no matter what. But he must not show his enemies his weakness, and proceeds to put on a tough face. The little brother left all his entries on purpose for the protagonist. The little brother is pretty sure that once the protagonist listens to his entries, then he will gain knowledge on how to get the elixir his little brother possessed. The protagonist observes the pocket watch thoroughly once again to make sure if he's certain with what he just heard. He then rewinds it again, and that hit him that his baby brother is serious. The sun sets and it became dark. He listened to his baby brother's journal entries on repeat, not only because he's curious, but he missed him after being gone for 5 years. He stared at the pocket watch and didn't think of anything but his baby brother. All of a sudden, he was startled when he heard another voice from the pocket watch. The protagonist's vision suddenly became like a black and white X-ray. He then felt a strong mana and realized that he slowly obtained the power that the tower and other people who possessed it. He struggles like it's the most painful thing he felt, since he's just a normal human who possesses a powerful gift instantly. The protagonist was knocked out, and in his vision, he saw his joyful little brother with a bright smile getting along with everyone near him, until it shifts to another vision of his brother struggling and fighting for his life. He saw a horrifying vision of his little brother with blood all over his face until life was taken away from him. The protagonist then woke up from a terrifying dream of his brother's death. He was assisted by the voice of the pocket watch that says the succession process is incomplete. He woke up breathing heavily. The protagonist's name is Yeon Woo with a strength of 10%, agility is 15%, stamina is 12%, MP is 21%. His body's ability has partially advanced. Yeon Woo's nature has been discovered and his skills have been added. Yeon then clenched the pocket watch as soon as realization hit him that he finally found out what happened to his poor brother, like why someone would lead him to death and why would the little brother came back after 5 years. With a severe anger in Yeon Woo's eyes, he swore that he would avenge his brother who became nothing but kind. He will avenge his little brother by following the rules of the fantasy reality world and will do the same thing to people who seem to be close to his little brother. Yeon Woo then observed the status window, the one with Yeon Woo's personal statistics. He felt like he was in a video game. The little brother's voice on the background guided him with some information that after completing his awakening, the little brother's body would adjust accordingly, but his abilities are still very lacking. Yeon Woo's nature is cold-blooded, which means he will exhibit an unrelenting rationale in any situation. He is completely immune to anything along the lines of mind control like denouncement or brainwashing. Yeon Woo finds his nature to be not bad at all, and he also finds it quite useful. Next to appear on his statistics is the dragon visual prowess. He has the dragon's eyes that penetrates even the truth. He is able to preview a portion of a person or object's ability beforehand. The little brother's name appears to be Yeon Woo. Yeon Woo mentioned that he met the ancient dragon Kalitos based on the journal entry and formed a contract with the dragon on the 11th floor of the tower. The next one to appear is the heightened senses. It states that Yeon Woo's 5 senses have been heightened drastically. He believes that it really was meant for him, since in the real world Yeon Woo's 5 senses works really for with his nature. After all, he reviewed his statistics. There was one thing that caught Yeon Woo's eyes with a slight of regret and self-blaming. He couldn't take his eyes off the pocket watch. He felt like it must be him who gave chaos to Yeon Woo's life. He immediately snapped out of it and focused on his main mission. Yeon Woo knew Yeon Woo's intention was to just make Yeon Woo find the elixir and quietly disappear. But in Yeon Woo's mind, he badly wanted to avenge his sweet and kind brother who dies by the hands of traitors. The next day before the sun rose, he did exactly what Yeon Woo did before he left the real world. Yeon Woo cuts all the connections he has in the real world to make his journey possible, as he says farewell to one of his comrades in the military. His fellow was concerned for Yeon Woo and immediately thought that maybe it has something to do with him losing his family. Yeon Woo did not respond whilst the comrades were deeply concerned, and he then ended the call. Yeon Woo settled his affairs. He put his home on sale and burned his military uniform as well as his backpack as a sign of him not turning back. Yeon Woo bought a brand new backpack and packed it with a couple articles of clothing, some rations, some knives that were identical to the ones he used in his unit, and most important is the first aid kit. Yeon Woo actually thought of buying a gun or some explosives from the black market, but it would only be heavy to bring and it would be a hassle for him along his journey. As he walked somewhere in the park, Yeon Woo wondered if the first round has been going on for about a week now. He remembered Yeon Woo's instruction that players who start late are given an advantage based on how late they start, and the first one gets to surpassing the front runner. The more points one can accumulate. And there is also a hidden piece that newcomers can take advantage of. And Yeon Woo's voice cues Yeon Woo that the thing should be appearing right about that moment. And as Yeon Woo packs up the pocket watch, a strong black wind appeared on the clouds. It looks like Dark Souls making a tornado. Then at that moment, there was a door that appeared to be a way to the fantasy reality world. The door opened and Yeon Woo steps in whilst thinking about the people who did his brother Yeon Woo wrong. He will make sure that everyone must taste his sweet revenge from that day onwards. Yeon Woo entered the world that welcomes him with a super bright light. He was in floor 0 where the tutorial began. As he opened his eyes, he couldn't believe that he finally made it in, and the place looked like a dungeon from the medieval times. As Yeon Woo took a look at the place, it was exactly what he saw in the journal. The tower was an entrance exam for the players that gave them a chance to become a god. In order to climb the tower, one must prove that they are qualified to do so. The place that tests if an individual is qualified is in the tutorial, which is the floor 0 where Yeon Woo's whereabouts. Yeon Woo energized himself by picturing Yeon Woo's lifeless body. He promised to wait for a little and he'll be at the top very soon. Before he could enter the tower, he must first achieve a high score and clear the tutorial. It must be an overwhelmingly high score or else he won't be achieving anything less than a first place. And those hidden pieces that are there as well. Yeon Woo needs to gather as many of those as possible and upgrade from his imperfect state so he can move forward. But before Yeon Woo starts to climb the tower, he needs to make his plates as much as possible. He'd rather focus on that case. And he then put on a mask and brought out his weapon. Yeon Woo looked up and he saw a swirling blue light that looks like a portal that speaks. The man in the portal thought he wasn't going to able to meet Yeon Woo and assumed that Yeon Woo would just leave. The man came out of the portal and Yeon Woo's instinct kicked in that he must defend himself. The man who came out of the portal appears to be a gentleman goblin. He then speaks that no matter how big his heart is, if a person unexpectedly shows such attitude, then he will be hurt. He then advised Yeon Woo to put away his knives since he's about to give instructions. The goblin introduced himself as the Floor Zero's manager, who is also a guide called Ibulkara. As a gentleman himself teased Yeon Woo that he deserves at least a clap for his entrance. The manager asked Yeon Woo if he believed him or does he still find him as a threat. Yeon Woo replied that some advice from the manager may be something that one can trivially brush over and he thinks it's good to always keep that in mind. The manager was impressed with Yeon Woo being somewhat familiar with the place. The manager also thought that Yeon Woo is a shy type since he's wearing a mask. He then assumes that maybe it would be easy to guide Yeon Woo since he's a bit familiar with the place. The manager proceeds to give instructions. He starts by saying that the tutorial is separated into 7 different blocks that go to G, and each section has its own created environment, each with different trials that must be completed. And during the time allotted to Yeon Woo, his score will be determined based on how he will complete the trials. His scores will be accumulated together and his final results will be announced. The manager then continued to explain the benefits of achieving a high score. A higher score means it's possible to get a better rewards in the future. The manager was certain that he thoroughly explained the instructions and leave the rest to Yeon Woo. But Yeon Woo asked a question like he wanted to finish the tutorial in an instant. He asked if how much time will he face the trials. The manager responds that he will most likely to face the tutorial for 30 days, a month. But it is up to Yeon Woo on how he will split those days for each block. However, the manager offered Yeon Woo that they are currently about 1 week into the round already. He then asked Yeon Woo if he's interested to start on the next round.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Leave a comment for the next part, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.